And now we're moving on to the monthly virtual table. Saranella, I think this is you, right?
Yes, thank you so much, Tom. So I took a look at, sorry, I took a look at the observations that were in our iNaturalist project. So, on behalf of the club and the DNA committee, thank you for adding your observations. And I decided to do a little reminder for all the membership, which is this slide. Um, I am sure that every time we go out into the forest, we are very excited to get as many observations as possible. And if we want to have a leg up in identifying those observations, then the most number of characters from this list that you can include in the pictures, the better the chance that we'll be able to identify those observations. So here's the list. Feel free to take a screenshot or picture so you can have that list in your phone. So basically, we want to capture where that mushroom is growing, what we call the habitat. Is it a log on the ground or is it high up on the tree? Whatever it is, we want to see. And we want to see how it is attached, whether it is a bouquet or a singleton or spread out. That is good information to have as well. Once you've captured the habit and the habitat, then go ahead and take the classic picture from the top. But that is not the end of all. When you finish taking the top, take a picture from the underside so we can take a look at that beautiful spore producing surface. Most of the time, there are many species in our area that can look very similar, and it's not until we look at the underside that we can tell them apart. Another thing to do that's very helpful is to cut through the spore producing surface, the pores or the gills, to see if there's any bruising or is there any secretion of latex. We have some really exciting species around this area that can bleed blue on, or purple, almost like blood, or a transparent that changes to yellow latex. Those are all possibilities of bleeding in this area and can only be captured when you dare to try. And lastly, smell it. Mushrooms have a beautiful spread of different possibilities of smells, from Clorox to curry to beef stew to almond. There are many possibilities, and you just have to lend your nose to the experience. The most number of these qualities that you're able to capture in your observation, the better the chance for ID. Now, moving on, we have our first species featured, and that was captured by Diana Viola through iNaturalist close to Rockville. Now, this is a very interesting species because it's a bit of mushroom inception. It is a mushroom eating another mushroom, Entoloma abortivum. Ah, interesting that you cannot see the name. Anyway, Entoloma abortivum or aborted entoloma. Oh, there you go. Thank you. I'm like, but I did it. Anyway, it's, although the common name is aborted entoloma, it is not the entoloma that is aborted. It's actually the honey mushroom that got aborted by the infection of entoloma. Entoloma mycelium encapsulates the early fruiting body of a honey mushroom, and that effectively distorts the morphology, the natural morphology of that honey mushroom. Whatever it is, however it happens, these mushrooms are delicious. Another name for these particular species is shrimp of the woods. So they are popping up right now in a forest near you. Next. Then we have a lesser known member of the honey mushrooms group. This is, um, I got Armillaria gallica. Now, usually when I find the honey mushrooms, they are on wood that's buried, and it appears that they're growing from the ground. So it could be roots that have decomposed. Um, but Armillaria gallica usually fruits on wood that is visible to your eyes. And a telltale sign that this is Gallica and not any other species is in the common name, the bulbous honey fungus. If you take a look at the picture on the left hand side, you can see that bulb at the base of the mushroom that is wider than the rest of the stem. So I like to say that mushroom has a little bit of junk in the trunk. Anyway, this is a very good specimen that's also popping widely in our area, and was submitted by Etnia via a naturalist, found in Reston, Virginia. Next. Another one that's popping up and will be popping up for the rest of the winter whenever the days are a little warmer and there is enough water in the environment is the American amber jelly fungus, or Exidia crenata, not to be confused with Exidia recisa, which is an European species. This is one of the fabulous pictures that Matthew Bessiat has available in our iNaturalist project. I have to say that I'm a personal fan. He always provides such wonderful pictures to his observations, and these was found in Calvert County, Maryland. However, you don't have to go to Calvert County. This is a very abundant species, and you can find it anywhere in the Mid-Atlantic region. Next. Ooh, do you see something, Scott? So this was submitted via email to the identifiers of the group. This particular mushroom was photographed by Scott Shapiro, and you can enjoy this mushroom as his virtual background. I see you right now. This is a Hydnum umbilicatum, not to be confused with Hindon repandum, which is an European species. So this is the species that's common in the eastern United States. A beautiful find, and I read that is an edible species, although I have not had the fortune to eat it myself. Thank you so much for the uh, submission, Scott. Next. Oh, yes, I needed to tap my hat to our president and my dear friend Natalie. I have to say that both of them are quite contagious. And I have developed a little bit of a soft spot for the lichens, especially the Physia lichens. I think they are fascinating. And there are a number of species of the Physia genus in our area. This particular one is Physia stellaris, or the star rosette lichen. How do we tell them apart? Because they look so similar. Well, according to my dear friend, Professor Natalie Howe, Physia stellaris tends to have bigger apothecia than the rest of the species. Um, Although bigger is a very relative term, because if you see right here, in the lower part of that right hand side picture is a nail for comparison. However, when you compare Physia stellaris with other species in our area, Physia milegrana, for example, the lobes are not as big. They don't, the apothecia or the dark circles that you see here are not as big, not so many lobes or curves at the edge. They are smoother because they tend to be smaller. You would see quite a number of these dark discs, but they would be smaller relatively to the size of the thallus, which is the name for the body of the lichen. They tend to be on that green, blue, a gray color, and that color can change a little bit when you have more moisture in the environment. They can tend to have a little bit of a greenish hue because then the photobiont is photosynthesizing more. And this was submitted by Margaret Noir, if I remember correctly. And here's a
Sorry, jumped ahead. Sorry.
all right. Um, I appreciate you keeping me on time. Thank you. So, here is another Scott Shapiro. Scott, you are trying to make us hungry, aren't you? This is Ichnoderma resinosum, otherwise known as the resinous polypore. Within the polypores, there are many, many species that tend to be very woody and tough, so they're not edible. But Ichnoderma resinosum is one of the exceptions. When Ichnoderma is this young and fresh, they are, oh my God, delicious. So much so that I like to call this one steak of the woods. It turns that beefy, meaty protein yumminess once you cook, both in color and flavor, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed it, Scott. I think that's it for me today. Let's check. Oh, no, because I wanted to provide a transition. Everywhere that you have dead log right now, even in wood chips, you are seeing this species pop up out of the blue. And this is Apioperdon piriformis, otherwise known as the pear-shaped puffball or the stump puffball. These guys are also edible. They are going to be edible if they are pure white inside, which is what we are seeing in the right hand side. And this was submitted by Patricia Jensen, found in Washington, D.C., but honestly, everywhere. Because right outside here in the mulch, we have some that are popping right now and that I ate with my team. And that, folks, takes us to the end of my section. Thank you for your attention.
All right.
Yay,
I think
thank
that's
you.
my cue to talk about matters culinary. And thank you for ending with several delicious edible examples, Serenella. I want to start though by backtracking to the Mushroom Festival and thank everybody who helped out with making the culinary display happen this year. Tom McCoy for being my personal shopper because I couldn't get to H Mart in time, so that we could showcase some of the diversity of edible fungus. John Herper and Mitch Forney for bringing things from the woods specifically for the culinary table. And above all, Ray LaSalle for bringing equipment and doing demonstrations of dehydrating and cutting and other culinary prep for long-term storage of things. In addition to the cookbooks and the posters, we had a lot of interest in that table always from the general public. They're like, "Really, you can eat that?" And it was a fun day. So I want to thank, but it takes a village. So I want to thank everybody who helped me make the club look good. All right, so Serenella ended with puffballs, and I'm going to start right back up with them because she showed me what she did with the puffballs she found. And here's another photo. This is what you want inside a puffball. You don't want the slightest hint of green. You don't want the slightest hint of yellow. You don't want the slightest hint of purple. And you definitely don't want to see the ghost outline of a baby amanita. But they're easy to overlook because they're common, they're everywhere. But they're like the tofu of the mushroom world. They take any flavor you want to put on them, and they hold their texture better than you might think in cooking. So Serenella prepped hers with a garlic aioli sauce. It looks quite delicious. Who's running the slides? Tom, can you pull up the next slide? I found some big ones, the purple spored puffballs, which are like the size of a pomelo. So that was more than I was going to cook with garlic. So I turned a fair bit of it into jerky, and I'd never tried making jerky with puffballs before, but I was pleasantly surprised. If you don't let it go all the way to hard brittle, it gives this really nice texture that has held up for several weeks, although I'm not going to find out its storage life because I'm going to finish eating it too fast. So there's a lot of things you can do with puffballs because I'm not the only one who made puffball jerky this week. Great, Don. We'll have to exchange marinade recipes. All right, so that's just a couple examples. You can take the same thing and do lots of different things culinarily with it. I just want to highlight a couple other food-related events, and then we'll pass it on to our feature speaker. April sent me a couple of photos from a workshop she went to this weekend at Edgewood Farms dedicated to, I'm going to butcher this, huitaloche, which is a fungus that grows specifically on corn and makes the kernels sort of swell up and turn gray, which I hope you can see in the picture on the right. So this, for a long time, was considered a pest by farmers here in the U.S., but now it's becoming appreciated. It's long been considered a seasonal delicacy in Mexico, and is becoming more and more widely accepted and explored by people interested in local foods. On the left is one of the examples of a dish prepared at that event, and I think it's masa flour and huitloche sort of in a roll and then roasted. April, if you want to unmute yourself and say another word or two
Oh
about
yeah.
the next one, because I'm.
Yeah.
It
Sure,
sounded
sure.
like it was
Yeah.
an amazing workshop.
Yeah, and it was they actually, this was the culmination of a series of events, and this was actually more just a dinner, and they had already prepared this in advance. They had
Okay.
done inoculation workshops earlier in the year and gave people kits to go and do it on their own corn, and they did a cooking workshop, and this was just a fabulous dinner. That was actually a sort of Mexican take on beef Wellington. So that was like a carne asada type thing, and then in lieu of the puff pastry, the masa corn flour, another nod to the corn in there. And they had chilaquiles. They had like three different preparations of it. It was all quite fantastic.
It's pretty yummy. Slide.
I was going to chip in with just one more little thing
Sure, go
about it.
for it.
I did a talk about huitlacoche years ago for the club, and one of the things that is so fascinating about this fungi for me, the name of the talk was "The Mushroom That Built an Empire," is that the fungus that grows on top of corn is a perfect complement to make a complete protein. So corn being the America cereal grain, like all cereal grains, is lacking in a couple of amino acids to make it a complete protein, lysine and tryptophan. But huitlacoche is very rich in both of those amino acids. So So this was
That's pretty cool.
this being such a common edible combination in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica really enriched the diets of the native peoples there.
That's pretty neat. All right, and there's one more. I think many of you in the club know our member, Julian, who's just opened his own restaurant focusing on wild and foraged ingredients. And he did a special mushroom-themed dinner that a number of members of the club were able to go to. I was not, but the photos from it are making me absolutely drool and want to go check out the restaurant. So here's just a recap of some of the mushroom-focused dishes from that night. On the left is the shaved matsutake with a ginger yuzu dressing, and that looks like shaved cucumbers. And then on the right, I think, is the hen of the woods sausage with a squash and mushroom mousse. And there were some things that weren't just fungi, but from what I've heard, it was a fabulous evening, and hopefully we'll be able to convince him to do another mushroom-focused menu for club members, and so a few more of us can check out what he's doing there. All right, one more slide from me, and then we'll pass it back to Barbara. Just my standard note, be safe out there, people. Make sure you know the first name and the last name of your new friend from the forest before you invite them home for dinner. And even if everybody says this species is safe to eat, you may be allergic to it because some people are allergic to really common foods: strawberries, bananas, peanut butter, milk. And individual mushroom species can be individual allergens as well. So be careful out there, have fun, and send me pictures of cool things you do. All right, I'll see you all next month.